People couldn't stop laughing at her. In a world obsessed with luxury and image, she was just a simple woman plain clothes, quiet voice, working long hours just to make ends meet. At the cafe where she served coffee, the wealthy customers treated her like she was invisible. Some even whispered behind her back, mocking the way she walked, the way she spoke, the way she dared to dream of a better life. But through it all, she stayed kind. She smiled at every customer, even the rude ones. She never complained. She simply worked, day after day, carrying a secret that would one day change everything. What no one knew was that she was hiding a past, filled with pain, courage, and a love that never gave up. Her story wasn't written in designer handbags or flashy cars. It was written in sacrifice, resilience, and a bond that couldn't be broken. While the world called her ordinary, one boy saw her for who she truly was: strong, selfless, and rare. That boy, quiet and always respectful, never joined the laughter. He watched and he waited, holding on to a truth no one else could imagine. One day, everything shifted. A luxury car pulled up in front of the cafe. The same people who used to laugh now rushed to fix their hair, straighten their shirts. And when the door opened and the billionaire's only son stepped out, the entire room froze. Cameras flashed. Whispers spread like fire. But what he did next left everyone stunned. He walked past the others, looked straight at the woman everyone ignored, and said one word that silenced the crowd. "Mom." Gasps filled the room. Hands trembled. Eyes widened. Because in that moment, the truth began to unravel and no one was ready for what came next. The next few days turned the woman's quiet life upside down. News spread fast. Gossip sites and social media exploded with photos of the cafe moment, tagging it with phrases like "billionaire's hidden family" and "waitress mom of air." Paparazzi camped outside the cafe, and curious strangers flooded in not for coffee, but to see her. Some came with questions, others with judgment. A few apologized for how they had treated her, but most just stared, still unsure whether to believe the story. Meanwhile, the billionaire's son, Ayan, faced his own storm. His family's board members, investors, and media advisors were furious. He had disrupted the image they had carefully built over decades. They demanded answers. But Ayan didn't flinch. He told them this was not a scandal. It was a truth long buried under their reputation. Still, pressure mounted. Some within the company feared it would affect stock value. Others claimed the woman had tricked Ayan, calling her an opportunist trying to take advantage of his status. Ayan refused to let them insult her. He started digging into legal files and old agreements, looking for the truth about why his mother had been pushed away in the first place. What he found only raised more questions. Hidden documents, sealed payments, letters from years ago that never reached her. Someone had worked hard to erase her from his life. Back in her small apartment, she struggled to adjust to the sudden attention. She wasn't used to cameras or interviews. She didn't want a spotlight. All she ever wanted was for her son to grow up safe, even if it meant being alone. Now that he was back, everything felt both overwhelming and unfinished. She could sense something darker behind all of this, something Ayan hadn't told her yet. And deep down, she feared that revealing the full truth might hurt them both more than staying silent ever did. Ayan's search for the truth led him deeper into the cracks of his father's empire. What started as curiosity turned into obsession. Late nights were spent combing through financial records and email archives. The more he uncovered, the more disturbed he became. A pattern emerged: his mother hadn't just been forgotten. She had been deliberately erased. Legal papers revealed a silent payoff made to keep her away, forged signatures on custody agreements, and a non-disclosure order she never agreed to. Someone had gone to great lengths to make sure the world never knew about her, or him. Meanwhile, back at the cafe, strange things started happening. A customer slipped a threatening note into her tip jar. Her landlord suddenly claimed her lease was being reviewed. A journalist who had offered to help suddenly stopped returning calls. It became clear someone with power was trying to make her disappear again. But this time, she wasn't alone. Ayan confronted his grandfather, the current head of the family's corporation. The old man didn't deny it. He simply leaned back, cold and unapologetic, and said, "She was a distraction. You were an accident. We cleaned it up." The words hit Ayan like ice. All this time, he thought it had been a misunderstanding, but it was planned, controlled, covered up. The truth had been traded for reputation. Now, Ayan had a choice. Exposing the truth would tear his family's name apart. It could cost him his inheritance, his position, even his safety. But staying quiet would mean accepting the betrayal and allowing his mother to carry the shame that was never hers to bear. Tension grew as the media began asking harder questions. Rumors of a tell-all interview spread online. Protesters gathered outside the company's headquarters demanding transparency. The board threatened to vote Ayan out, and at the center of it all stood a simple woman who had stayed silent for years, now waiting to see if her son would finally speak for her. Just when it felt like the tension couldn't rise any higher, a second shockwave hit. Late one evening, as Ayan sifted through old archives stored in a forgotten corner of the company's legal wing, he found something that didn't match the rest: a handwritten letter, yellowed with age, addressed to his father. It was from his mother. The letter spoke of love, confusion, and desperation. She hadn't walked away, as they always claimed. She had begged to stay, begged to raise her son with dignity, and most importantly, she mentioned something Ayan had never been told. She wasn't alone when she left. There had been another child. The words blurred before his eyes. His mother had given birth to twins, and only one child had been taken. The other vanished. The letter hinted at a cover-up, mentioning threats and a promise that if she kept quiet and left with nothing, the second child would be kept safe. She was told she couldn't raise both, and she never spoke about it again. Now, Ayan's world began to spin. Somewhere out there was a sibling he never knew existed, a brother or sister who had grown up in silence, possibly under a different name, without ever knowing the truth. The stakes were suddenly much bigger. It wasn't just about exposing a hidden past anymore. It was about finding a lost part of himself, a missing piece of his mother's heart. He rushed to her apartment, the letter shaking in his hand. She froze when she saw it. Her face, usually so calm, crumbled. She had tried to protect both children. She had lived with guilt and silence, praying one day it would all come out, but never expected this moment. Now, with the media still watching, the company on the edge, and the pressure mounting, one question echoed louder than all the noise. If one truth had been buried this deep, what else had they hidden? Ayan stood on the stage, lights glaring, heart pounding. It was the press conference the world had been waiting for. Cameras flashed, reporters leaned forward, and millions watched the live stream unfold. With his mother seated quietly in the front row, he took a deep breath and began speaking, not as a billionaire's heir, but as a son reclaiming the truth. He revealed everything: the years of silence, the forged documents, the deliberate erasure of his mother's name, and then, the part that made the entire room gasp, he spoke of his twin. Whispers broke out instantly. News outlets began typing headlines in real time: a missing child, a hidden sibling, a cover-up by one of the most powerful families in the country. The story had gone from scandal to something far deeper: human, raw, and heartbreaking. Ayan didn't hold back. He presented the letter, named names, and called out those who orchestrated it all, including his own grandfather. It was the ultimate act of defiance, and it sent shockwaves through the company. Just as the conference reached its emotional peak, a soft voice interrupted from the back of the hall. A young woman, no older than Ayan, stepped forward with trembling hands. "I think I'm the other one," she whispered. The room fell silent again. She held a worn photograph of a baby, half of a torn picture Ayan had in his pocket, one his mother had always kept hidden. A DNA test later confirmed what their hearts already knew. She had grown up in foster care, her records altered, never knowing where she truly came from. She had no wealth, No family name, but she carried the same eyes, the same fire. A yawn wrapped an arm around her as their mother wept quietly in the corner, finally whole again. The media had expected a scandal. What they witnessed was something else, a family, broken by lies, now standing in truth. But as they turned to leave the stage, a reporter called out one last question. Do you know who took her, and why she was kept hidden? Ayan paused. That part of the story, he said, is just beginning. Weeks passed, but the world hadn't stopped talking. What began as a quiet woman serving coffee had turned into one of the most powerful stories of family, truth, and identity the country had seen. The billionaire family's empire was shaken, but not destroyed. The board removed Ayan's grandfather, citing a loss of moral leadership. Ayan was offered the role, but he turned it down. He didn't want power for power's sake. Instead, he launched a foundation in his mother's name, focused on helping women and children forced into silence by systems that protected the wealthy. His mother, for the first time, was no longer seen as invisible. She returned to the cafe, not as an employee, but as its new owner. It wasn't about proving anything. It was about reclaiming a life stolen from her. Customers now greeted her with respect, some even apologizing for how they had once treated her. She accepted it all quietly, her heart still soft but now finally seen. His sister Amara began the slow process of healing. She stayed close, learning about the family she never knew, trying to understand where she fit into this new world. She didn't care for fame or riches. She only wanted truth and a place to belong. And in time, she found both. The final pieces of the puzzle were revealed through a private investigation. It turned out, an old friend of the family had taken Amara and raised her under a new name, funded secretly by the company's hush money. It was betrayal disguised as protection. And though forgiveness wouldn't come overnight, the truth now lived in the open. In the end, what mattered wasn't wealth or reputation, it was the courage to speak, to stand, and to love without condition. The story of the simple woman who was once laughed at had become a lesson the world wouldn't forget. And for those still hiding in silence, it was proof that even in the shadows, light can still find its way.